Hi friends, it's me Julia Sudo from the SMB Level Workshop here with BrandonSMB and friends, Super Monkey Ball Deluxe port to the Nintendo GameCube. I had some technical issues last time when I attempted to record desktop audio, so until I find a fix for that, we're not going to be doing that. We're playing challenge mode now, which is really what I've been mostly looking forward to doing. Since I'm not doing the race, unfortunately, I'm just going to be doing beginner now. And so we're going to play beginner of Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, which is just great. We're going to be doing warpless. I currently only have 3 lives unlocked because I have not even yet gotten to the point where I can unlock lives, game progression-wise. So, you know, this is plain. It's the first level of Super Monkey Ball 1, but it's been brought to Super Monkey Ball 2 by these lovely Deluxe developers. Here's Diamond, the second level in the game. It's pretty basic, I think. And then we've got Hairpin, a fun level that you can do very quickly if you know what you're doing. Here is Wide Bridge. Yes, but since we don't have any lives unlocked, I'm not going to be taking too many risks. I know I did actually say that and then immediately take a stupid risk and immediately die. However, that's going to go into effect starting now. There are not going to be any other major risks taken for the rest of this run, and I am in fact going to be focusing on collecting bananas. So Deluxe has the lovely feature of only having bonus stages on every 10th stage instead of the 5th stage and then every 10th stage. So we're just going to be moving right into Super Monkey Ball 2 stages for the time being. We are going to go for the skip on Hollow because I see no large reason not to. I'm actually rather confident in my capability of getting this skip. I say immediately before failing this skip, hopefully we are not going to be failing to get to the extra stages in beginner. Now, to be fair, beginner in Super Monkey Ball Deluxe is quite a bit harder than beginner in the other games, just because it's 40 stages and it's got some much more difficult stages than you would expect for a beginner near the end. But that said, I still think I can make it through here without using another life. That's the hope anyways. I mean, even if I do use another life, I can just build up more lives. That will really be the hope. I didn't get that banana bunch, unfortunately, which will inhibit my attempts to build up more lives. Famous last words by Julia Sudo. Yeah, one of the weird things about Deluxe is that there are only 2 warps in it, which are the one in this level and the one in Diamond. And then for the other, 40 stages, there are no other warps. I do find this to be a little strange, personally, but sometimes that's how things are. This level has a banana bunch. In fact, it has several, which can be gotten by going on top of these floaters. Yes, and when you do so, you can acquire lots of bananas without much trouble, because the floaters always go down before going up. And then they can also go down again, in which case you can collect a banana bunch on top at that point. I missed this one, but actually I will just wait for it to go down, because I could really use those bananas. I shouldn't be afraid of running out of lives in beginner, but I am anyways. I'm sorry to tell you all, because I really don't want to screw up the recording. That's what it comes down to. Here's bonus basic. It's a rather basic level, in which you can collect all the bananas. The BombSquad did an amazing thing before the release of this mod and managed to implement bonus perfects into Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, which is just fantastic. I somehow forgot to center banana there. And this is not something that was possible to do in Super Monkey Ball 2 mods previously. So it's pretty great. Here is Edge. It's a stage which you have to bounce over the edge. It's the first new stage we're seeing here that was not in either Super Monkey Ball 1 or 2. The checkers are fixed, much as they were in story mode. Here is escalators, another stage that is new to Deluxe. It's got a lot of bananas for no particular reason, but you know, I'm gonna take them, all for myself, cause that's the kind of mood I'm in right now. Believe it or not, that's me. The banana taken lady, Julia Suda. That's what they call me in high school. Um, don't worry, they didn't actually call me that in high school. Sorry for my terrible jokes on my recordings, but sometimes you just gotta do it. I don't think I'm going to be getting all the bananas here, but I'll get as many as I can. Sorry for this boring gameplay, but yeah, that's escalators for you. We are now going to be moving on to Serpentine, another level with lots of banana bunches that you can get if you are careful enough. This is the first level in Deluxe that includes this controversial, let's say, feature of having like a sort of drop platform. I forget the term that I've seen Reina use on the server before I became a Calico, regarding this type of design. I believe it was her. Where if you die, you don't actually, or if you fall off, you don't actually die. You just have to go on a worse path. It's often considered to be a silly part of Deluxe, and I tend to agree myself. Here's Swirl. If you go too fast on here, sometimes you go over the edge, which is sometimes a good thing, but because it can allow you to make a skip, but it can also cause you to become completely disoriented and lose track of which direction you're supposed to be going in. So I'm going to avoid this myself and just, you know, go for the goal in the typical way because I don't want to waste time. Yep. So that's Swirl. The next stage is Dormant Pits. This stage has a ton of bananas, which you can get by pressing the play switch, or you can just not get them and just go on to the next level really easily. This is a bit of a silly stage, in my opinion, because it doesn't really have that much. There's just not that much to say about it. You know, if you're not going for the bananas, then there's nothing to this stage. You kind of just, and if you do go for the bananas, it's very easy and there's very little risk of dying. So I always thought it was a little bit silly. But yeah, it is a good way to get lots of bananas, to be fair. Here's Composition, the iconic stage in which the goal is to follow the line. I believe that this stage had its checkers increased in their individual resolution, which is a great change made by BrandonSMB, I believe. Yeah, I appreciate this, personally. So I am going to try to get at least one set of these bananas, which is an easy thing to do. Getting both is very difficult due to the time limit. But we're back up to 4 lives, which is pretty great and makes me confident for the future. Hopefully we will not run out of time on Composition, which would be a rather silly thing to do. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen, so there's nothing to worry about. Here's Dynamo, a stage that teaches you about building up speed. I think this is a pretty great stage added in Deluxe, though it does have the common problem of not really being able to die on it easily, and it also has like a ton of bananas for no real reason that seem to be too great a reward for how easy they are to get, at least to some extent. But yeah, bananas are good, regardless. Here's Lunchbox, the name that nobody knows why it is called Lunchbox, unless one of my lovely viewers does have an idea of why it's called Lunchbox, but I personally do not know, because it doesn't seem to strongly resemble a lunchbox. Here's Gutter, a stage that I think is too hard for beginner. As I stated in my video of World 2, where this stage is located in story mode, I do just think it's a bit strange, personally. Or not strange, just a bit early placed, honestly. Straight up. But yeah, it's still doable by a programmer such as myself, or even a non-programmer. It's not the hardest stage in the game, but it just seems a little bit too hard. Here's Tub, which was originally called Bowl in Super Monkey Ball 2, and in the original Deluxe was called Rising Inclines. However, the stage's name is widely believed to have been switched with the 7th stage of Beginner from, I think it's the 7th stage, from Super Monkey Ball 2, which is originally called Slopes, but is called Tub in Deluxe, even though it in no way resembles a tub. We will be seeing that stage later on in this video, in actually just a short time, relatively speaking. But yes, playing this stage again has confirmed to me something that I suspected after playing Toothy's SMB1 in SMB2, or the opposite rather, SMB2 and SMB1, which is that this stage is less steep in SMB2 and SMB1 than it is in the original, as in this version, because it is a lot harder to get the bananas here for me than it is in the original. If I am not mistaken, we did this the cheese way in story mode, so I'm just going to do it the normal way here to make up for that. This one's Slopes. It was originally the 6th stage of Beginner, so we're getting into the last stages of Beginner from Super Monkey Ball 1 now. Which are these sunset / sky high stages that everybody's a fan of. Everybody knows these stages who's played Super Monkey Ball 1. This one's Steps. Yep. That's Steps. Here's Blocks, which had its Dole logo removed, like all the Dole logos in Deluxe, but they have thankfully been restored due to the efforts of BrandonSMB and the other Deluxe developers, Deluxe mod developers, which is pretty great because the Dole logo is iconic, even if it's terrible product placement. Here's Jump Single. It's got a single jump, not to be confused with Jump Double. If you're a pro gamer like myself, you can bounce off that wall straight into the goal. It's a pretty great feeling when you do. Here's Exam A, originally the last level of Beginner, which is an extremely appropriate last level, if you ask me, although it can be cheesed in the way that I just have. But for a new player, this level looks like the scariest thing in the world, and I think that's great for the last stage of Beginner. But it's just been moved to stage 25, not even in the last 10 stages, so that's a little bit strange, but it's okay. Here's Rising Inclines, which was called Slopes in the original, but then in this game, in this mod, or in Deluxe, Beginner 6 has been renamed to Slopes, so this stage takes on the name of Rising Inclines, though it was originally called Tub, and it is believed that the names were switched with each other, Tub and Rising Inclines, so they have been restored by the mod developers. Thanks, folks. Here's Sliders. It's a stage where you have to go down a bunch of slopes. It's kind of like Slopes, except it's in a half pipe. And yep, you basically just have to go down increasingly large slopes. There is a big skip that you can do to start from the start to go all the way down to the goal here, but I'm not very experienced with it, so I won't be attempting it myself. Here's Spinning Top. This one's the sort of level in Super Monkey Ball 2 that I have to wonder if they kind of just made it to show off this cool top model they made. That thing I just tried to do was almost a disaster, but thankfully I survived it. But yeah, this one's not very hard, and it doesn't really seem to have that much to it, so I wonder exactly what the intent was. Although, as I understand, this level has a shit ton of keyframes, which makes sense with how it moves, because it is an impressive model, if nothing else. Here's Curve Bridge, the last level of Beginner from Super Monkey Ball 2. It's very hard to get the early cycle on this, and which is the only way to get a time bonus. I think I have already gone too slowly. In order to get it, you have to conserve speed very well and utilize speed very well in order to get the time bonus, which I have barely failed to do as usual. Seems to happen pretty much every time I play this stage. I think I may have gotten it once, if at all, in my entire career of playing this stage, which I have done a whole lot. And so here's Scabrous. It is a bonus, a new bonus. If nothing else, one of the good things you can say about Deluxe's new stages as a whole is that the bonus stages are largely completable. There are some exceptions, but they are largely completable, and I really like that. There are some terrible exceptions, such as Paraboloid, which is probably the worst bonus stage in all the first 3 games in the series. But this one certainly is very much doable, which I'm a huge fan of personally. And in fact, it's just barely doable, which kind of makes sense for the first, for like the last bonus stage in Beginner. But it is definitely doable. You just have to have some skill with it, and get to understand how these ridges operate on the monkey. And even if you don't, you can still get some, even if you don't get them all, you can still get a lot of banana bunches. And I think that's great, personally. And in fact, I got the perfect, thanks to BombSquad. Here's Jolt Channel. These last 10 stages are all new. None of them have ever been seen before in the first 2 Monkey Ball games. And as someone did not realize, I cannot remember, but one of the Deluxe mod developers on the server did not realize before I mentioned this in my previous video, but there are actually no dead ends in this stage, despite it being a maze. And I am completely going in useless directions, so I will not be getting any of those much-loved bananas, because I'm not that familiar with these stages all the time, and sometimes I screwed up. So sorry about that, folks. But I still did complete the level, so I hope you'll forgive me. Here is Inertial, a level with some kind of really easy to get banana bunches, and a fast-moving goal that does not always move so fast. I think this is a pretty cool stage, added in Deluxe personally. It's a fun thing, although it's hard to die on, but it's a fun mechanism, I think. Here's Octagonal, a stage that sucks to screw up, because then you end up in the drop areas and have to go back up and around again. I would honestly just prefer it if it killed you sometimes, because that often feels simpler. Here's Sewer, another maze, but one that is, I think, forgivable, because you can jump over much of it, and end up over here. And then you can go back for some bananas. But yeah, I kind of like the design of this one. I like the idea. It's a fun concept, and it's understandable why it's called Sewer, even though it's not underground at all. Here is Arc Bridges, a level that has a big skip, where you can just do that, and skip most of the level, and then you end up here, and you can just line yourself up with this line, and go on the hardest one, and die, and then you can retry the level. And you can do the skip again, you can go over this bridge, you can go over here, you can line yourself up, and you can end up here, and you can get the banana bunches, and that's how you beat Arc Bridges. Every part of that explanation was absolutely required, so don't miss any of it, although don't actually die, because I don't want to advise that for my viewers. Don't lose your run for my stupid jokes. Here's Veerfield. The fish trick has been restored to the stage, which is really, really cool, as I discovered while playing story mode, but we're just going to be doing it the normal way this time, because, yeah, fish trick's too risky. I do love the fish trick, though. This is a really, 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 really big stage. Like, kind of crazy big. Like, I don't know if there are any stages that truly compare in the scale in scale to this one, except like Gravity Slider. But even this one clearly has a much larger volume than Gravity Slider. It's kind of wild. It's possible that like the distance from point A to point B is larger in Gravity Slider, but the volume of this stage is definitely a lot bigger. It's just kind of crazy when you think about it. Here's Teeter, another stage that doesn't really let you die, you just fall down to a lower platform. But I can almost forgive it for this one because it's a pretty hard stage for beginner if you were to just be able to die on it. This whole platform's a seesaw, which has never been seen before in beginner, I'm pretty sure, up to this point. So it's kind of understandable. You get a lot of banana bunches at the end. But it's kind of just a big seesaw you gotta go over. Nothing too big a deal. Nothing to worry yourself about if you know. But that's the kind of stage it is. Here's Stream. It's a stage with conveyor belts. Long before the advanced stage conveyor, or maybe it's conveyors, there's both conveyor and conveyors, and they are different. But the conveyors here are very weak and don't affect the ball that much, so you can easily run against them if you are so inclined. As I just did near the beginning there, and then you can just go into the goal. To complete Stream, the next stage is Catwalk, the hardest stage in beginner. We'll give the hard way a go. This is very, very narrow here, if you cannot see. This one would be... I'll try it one more time. The regular path on the stage would be way too hard for beginner if it wasn't for the fact that it has like little invisible railings sort of that serve to keep you on the path and make it harder to fall off. We're just going to be going for the normal way because I don't want to lose all my lives on the hard way of Catwalk. I think I've done it once ever on the PS2 version of Deluxe, and yeah. So these look super narrow and hard, but it's hard to fall off, so it's not nearly as difficult as it looks, and is in fact quite easy. Even this one, which looks virtually impossible to a first-time player, most likely. But yeah, there's not actually that much of a risk of it ultimately. It's a little bit of a strange stage. And then you can go on to Catapult. Out of all the levels in Deluxe, Catapult is one of them. It's a really fun stage where you have to be catapulted up and then you can come back down into the goal. I'm actually a huge fan of this stage, but it's not the best stage in Deluxe. That one's the last stage in Advanced, in my opinion. But this one is really cool. There's an actual risk of dying if you don't do it properly, and it's just great, I think. Since we didn't use a continue, we'll move on to the extra stages, which are quite exciting. If anybody's curious, I chose to pick the... well, first I should say, shoutouts to Blur Bridge. The BombSquad had to manually port this stage due to its hard-codedness in the original that stems from its use of these accordion-like structures that are not seen in any other stage. So BombSquad had to do a job of making the keyframes himself, which is pretty cool, I think. But yes, if anybody's curious, I chose I think it's version B of the Deluxe mod, which uses the ice music for this stage. This version of the stage lacks reflections, much as it did in the original Deluxe, at least in the PS2 version. I'm not actually sure about that for the Xbox version, which I have not played myself. But probably because the reflections are hard-coded due to this not being a static flat surface, which I think is normally required for reflections. But yeah, I have the version with the ice music for space levels because I like the ice music a lot. Even though it's not more accurate to what... It's probably not the more accurate to what Deluxe was supposed to be. It's generally believed that that the space music was removed in Deluxe for licensing reasons or something akin to that. But yeah, I just like this music. I just like it. This level, boy, has, I believe, reflections for the first time ever, and also has small checkers, making this level look a hell of a lot better than before. In this stage, the goal is just to get on top of the buoy, in which case you can get into the goal. Now we're in Super Monkey Ball 2 stages, extra stages in particular. This one's conveyors, so the other one that introduces conveyors in Super Monkey Ball 1 is conveyor, with just one conveyor. But this is conveyors, which a stage that you can actually hold up from the beginning on, though the way I did it was probably minutely faster. Here's Bumpy Check, a stage that has some bumps that you can check you can check the strength of by bouncing on. That's most likely why it's called Bumpy Check and no other reason. Here's Alternative. It's a stage where it's very similar to Blocks with these moving platforms, or well, more similar to Blocks Slim, I would say. But yeah, you can press the fast forward switch in order to do this in the cool way, but it does make it very difficult. So I think I will just keep the normal switch. Actually, no, I'll give it another try. Got a lot of lives. I got 5 lives. I'm not going to use those all. And it doesn't even really matter if I did ultimately. But yeah, so it is still possible to complete the level with a fast forward switch is pressed, just a bit more difficult. And I did it. Here's Junction, a level with a warp that you can do by building up speed on the starting platform. But instead, we're just going to be going down the main one, since we're not doing any warps, in order to play all the stages. So that's Junction. Here's Bead Screen, a stage that involves the first one with like a large switchboard to operate. You basically press the pause switch when it's stopped, as I assume most of my viewers would be aware. And then it allows you to go down quickly. Shout out to Toothy's retexture for this stage, which I love. It's got rainbow effects in SMB2 and SMB1. I like it. Here's Coil Ramp, the first new extra stage. Well, no, that's not true. There was also Rhombus and Boy, but yep, this is the first. This is the first of the like Bad Boons base extra stages, I guess, that are new. It's got bumpers, and you have to go down a coil ramp. It's kind of there's not that much to this one, but it's cool, I guess. I don't dislike this level, I suppose. You can drop down from the beginning. It gets very steep over time. This one would be very difficult, similar to like Spiral Hard, if it was not very wide, and also it has the flat part at the bottom if you choose to go that way. So I think this one's pretty well balanced for beginner, although the time limit is very constrictive if you don't make any skips, as I am not. So that is something to consider. But yeah, it is beginner extra at least. And after 40 stages of beginner. So it needs to be considered a bit differently. Ooh, this is a nice retexture for this stage. Originally it was all green, but now it's got some other shit. I think this one's named after like a French cookie or something like that that's all flaky like this. I don't fucking know. I have no idea how to pronounce it. I'm not going to try to pronounce a French word because every time I do, I generally tend to embarrass myself. But yeah, it's basically just stairs. People love balls on stairs. It's a favorite of all Monkey Ball players, which is why they put in a new stairs level in Deluxe, due to the no doubt immensely positive reception that such stages in the first 2 games got. Here is Waver. I always wondered if this was waver as in like one that waves, or like, waver as in like, one speech wavering. Like which one does the name of this stage refer to? It's hard to say, but it's a pretty alright stage, and it's one of the few Deluxe stages with a warp as well, which we will not be taking, of course, but the warp is pretty cool. I'll probably make a warp compilation, as I tend to do. Yeah, the warp's alright. It's just a narrower waver. I guess there's not that much to it, but it's cool. Here's Fat Seesaw. This is a linear seesaw, much like the level Linear Seesaws, which is not apparent from the title, but yeah, that is the kind of seesaw it is, so you kind of gotta go across it quickly in order to get to the goal. Here's Treads, a stage which for a long time I thought was called Threads, but it's not, so don't make that mistake. It's got a big skip you can make. It's another stage with stairs, but at least you're going downwards, so it's not as bad. If you get a bad clip, you can sometimes just bounce completely out of control on here, but that's hopefully not going to happen in my case. But I'm kind of just letting it happen, so if it does, it would be very much my fault. This is also a very large stage, like very, very large, if you notice. It has a very large volume, although I don't think to the same degree as Veerfield. Veerfield, by the way, is a very strange name. I do not know what it means, but it is the name of that stage for some reason. And I respect names, so, you know, that's valid of it, I guess. Yeah, now we're back to Super Monkey Ball 2 stages, though. That was it for the treads. Was the last of the original deluxe stages, so now we're back to the last 5 stages of beginner extra from Super Monkey Ball 2, such as folders, the stage in which you can go along the edge, which is probably the intended method, because doing it normally is very, very difficult. But I don't understand why there are so many stages from Monkey Ball 2 that have these, like, janky strats that you can just kind of do that are clearly intended. Like, also, this is another example of that, because you can just hold forward from the start on quick turn to win. But it's like, how are you supposed to know that? You can do it, but how the hell are you supposed to know that you can? And I just have to wonder what they were thinking when they made a stage like this. Because it would actually be a lot more interesting if you couldn't just hold up from the start. But you can, so there's not that much to it. Here's linear seesaws. It's got a couple of linear seesaws, some of the fat seesaws, but more of them. Here's birth, a stage in which we will not be pressing the pause switch if all goes according to plan, because it is possible to do with the play switch. Hell, it's even possible to do with the fast forward switch, just a bit harder. But we're going to be doing it with the play switch, which makes it harder than doing it with the pause switch, but not altogether completely difficult. Though it still can be pretty hard. It's just a lot. It's a lot easier to do this without pressing the pause switch. Or no, it's a lot harder to do it without the pause switch, but it is a lot quicker to do it without the pause switch as well. So that is the goal of this. In the interest of speed, we will not be pressing the pause switch. I do many things in the interest of speed these days, but ultimately when it comes down to it, if I had just pressed the pause switch in the first place, I would probably be done with the level by now. So I think I will go do that. Sorry, folks, but sometimes you gotta take your losses. Still, it is possible to bounce off that switch and get up there, I believe, but it's rather tough, and if you're going for speed, then you might as well just not press the pause switch. Which I have done successfully in the past, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling it now. I'm sorry to tell you. That's the end of Beginner, though. We've completed Beginner in Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think the ending video is about to happen. Yep, I completed this level. Easily. Yeah, easily. Thanks, Mimi. I'd like to think I did it easily. I did do it with only 3 lives, after all. Let's see if I can do advanced with 3 lives in the next video, because I definitely still don't have any extra lives unlocked. I don't even have all the mini-games unlocked. So, thanks for watching, folks. I really appreciate you tuning in to my channel for my usual Super Monkey Ball playthroughs. See you next video, I suppose. Thanks for watching.